So I think that's where we're going to focus our conversation today. We're going to look right now, sir, at the vendor positioning in cloud. Probably does not surprise you to see Microsoft Azure all the way up and to the right, AWS not far behind, and then of course we have Google split into GCP and then cloud functions, but also doing quite well. I'm going to ask you, sir. There's really two camps in the world. You're either with Microsoft, or generally you're going with one of the others. And we're also in a multi-cloud world. So if you don't mind, sir, maybe telling us a little bit how you're aligned on that side.
Yeah, so I am with AWS. I've been fortunate to work for organizations where I've done both. I've done Azure and I've done AWS. The challenge, quite candidly, that I have with Microsoft is they haven't yet built the supporting infrastructure like AWS has, and so that's where I personally struggled a little bit with them. The reason why we're seeing them so far is because they're continuing to push investments into their platform. They're continuing to give it away. They're, through their Office 365 product, they're making inroads with lots of clients. So they've done a good job on pushing out Azure. Feature development is where they need to catch up to AWS.
Yeah, very interesting that you'd say that, because if you just talk about Microsoft, whether it's their application cloud, usually it leads everybody. But when you get into the more detailed feature sets, AWS sometimes really does win out. And we're looking at here, and in fairness, this is with all citation. If I've changed it, this screen would change a little bit. But AWS Lambda is the highest. And, it's interesting because it just means we're moving to the serverless world. We're moving towards real-time streaming analytics and cloud service. And knowing a little bit about your organization, though I'm not going to say the name, I have a feeling that you're kind of pushing the envelope here. And if you don't mind, sir, I'd love to talk a little bit about that sort of real-time streaming use cases on the analytics side and why you chose AWS.
Yeah, we believe that real time is just the future. I mean, think about all the use cases that are in front of us. Think about all the applications of it. We're pushing really hard on a serverless world, the 100% serverless world. And so, that's not easy, given the applications and the integrations that you need to do. But that's how we do. It used to be mobile first. Now for us, it's serverless first. And so that's honestly that's the culture we're pushing. And that's why AWS for us is probably the best answer in this point.
And just to take a step back for people out there, the financial world tends to really often push the envelope, as I said, and mobile first, everyone gets, right? Everything's a digital economy now. Everything needs to be at a touch of a button. But when you say moving towards a serverless world, what does that exactly mean for a real-time use case? Could you maybe talk to us a little bit about what a real-time streaming analytics use case is for your business?
The ability to, if you're thinking about finances, it's the ability to get access to your information instantly. The ability to be able to manipulate your data on the fly. The ability to be able to make purchases, to do transactions on the fly. These are things typically that have taken days in our industry, which is quite discerning, right? If you look at retail as an example, retail's kind of got sort of that real-time use cases down packed. Retail is leading in most, if you think about it from that perspective. And that's where we want to be. We want to be at the point where you make the decision to do this transaction and take this loan, and it's instant, right? Because we have the data, we can make those decisions, we can make the credit authorizations, we can do all of that instantaneously. We've gotten there with certain things, but there's still quite a lot of, if you think of loan servicing and all the other applications that follow behind that, there's still quite a bit of room to go.
I appreciate it greatly. We talked about AWS Lambda being a part of it. I also very often in this instance will hear about Google in this analytics side, that they do a really great job, whether it's BigQuery or their relationship with Looker, or just the fact that they can be portable across certain clouds. And I'm just taking a stab here because I don't know if this is if you're using them at all, or if you're 100% in with AWS, but which vendors are helping you explore these real-time streaming use cases?
Yeah, we've got quite a strategic relationship with AWS, so that's where we're mostly based. But I'll be honest, before my present company, I had looked into the work that Google was doing with a couple of banks. The challenge Google has is a lot of their relationships are confidential. for, I guess that's the way some of the banks want them. And so they're not allowed to discuss a lot of the details that they're doing. But the conversation I was having with the Google account rep, it seemed to me that they were pushing the envelope as well. And so I suspect in the next couple of years, we're going to see quite a push from them in this serverless space as well.
All right, I appreciate that. I'm just going to go back in quickly, as you mentioned, that we're aligned with AWS, and then talk a little bit about from the data warehousing database side before we get into the analytics, because you actually, obviously, you need to have the data sitting somewhere to do the ETL, and then eventually get the visualization into the hands of your customers. So we'll start there. AWS, again, not surprisingly, in a second position here. GCP very close behind. But leading the way is Snowflake, largely for two reasons that your peers tell us. And that's the ability to price on consumption. People like their pricing model, so you're not paying for data that's static. And then secondly, that it's portable, that you can move it across clouds. Curious, sir, if you have any feedback for us. Snowflake has been an incredible performer in our data, and it's continuing to perform really well. So any thoughts, even if it's pain points or negative aspects, but any thoughts on Snowflake for us?
Yeah, we like Snowflake as well. We've got quite a deployment within our shop. We leverage Snowflake on AWS, which is quite the strategic move if you think about it. The challenge that we have, or that most companies will have actually, is that you still have quite a bit of on-prem databases, and Snowflake allows you to quickly solve those use cases where you've got on-prem databases that you need to do a migration to AWS. Snowflake is a really good transition medium. So I'm not surprised to see them up front. I think they'll continue to lead the industry. I think that you'll start to see more products from them that integrate more seamlessly into AWS and Azure and Google. So I think they'll continue to lead in that space.
That's just a great comment there about, financial services particularly, right? There's still always going to be on-prem data, whether it's from compliance or just legacy. Has been around so long. So that use case of Snowflake being able to get that on-prem data into your cloud platform so you can do these next level streaming use cases is great. I haven't heard that before. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Yep.
And as you look at this visualization tool, we talk a little bit about, some of that on-prem data you still have. As we go further to the right, unfortunately, we've got IBM still kicking along, trying to stay in positive territory. Oracle obviously is a little bit well aligned in financial services, but not so much in others. And Teradata just looks like it just might not catch up. But if I could ask you maybe about the legacy players, sir, when you look at that landscape, which of them, has a fighting chance of keeping up, and which ones do you think the time's just passed for?
I think the time's passed with Teradata. I haven't heard of any new Teradata installations being done. I think from a cost perspective, scale, they just haven't been able to make the transition to the cloud. The one I give a fighting chance, actually might surprise you, it's Oracle. I've dealt with them a lot, and they are very good at embedding themselves within clients. And once they do that, they become part of your ecosystem. It's hard to get rid of them. And they're good at, I want to use the word manipulating, I should watch that. they're good at making it make sense for you, or making it not make sense for you to move, is the way I'll put it. And so I suspect that they'll continue, because of their size, because of their reach, and because of where they play, they'll continue to keep certain clients almost hostage, right? Where it doesn't make sense for you to move off of this big Oracle base. Now, I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago at reInvent, Jassy was up on stage and talking about Amazon was doing the last Oracle migration. Even Amazon, it took them years to get Oracle out of their ecosystem. So I suspect Oracle is the one that will be around for a while, just because of where they play, how they operate, and the complicated nature of their environment.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's like that relationship you don't really want to be in, but you can't get out of.
But you can't get out of, yeah.
And particularly in financial services, obviously he's always talking about his huge ERP wins in the financial services side. But the truth is, you just can't really lift and shift that data, so you don't have a choice. And while you were speaking, I kind of showed like a data story to kind of explain that, where if you go to new adoptions, So these are your peers saying like, hey, I just adopted an Oracle database. It doesn't exist. It really just doesn't happen, right? Everyone's adopting Snowflake. They're adopting GCP. But if you go to flat, like, which means I'm not doing anything new, but then look where they are.
There you go.
There you go. So it kind of tells that story for you, right? Where like it's already there. They make it difficult to leave. So I guess that's where we're going to stay. But it's great to hear it from you guys instead of just us on the data side. All right, I'm going to switch over quickly. So now that we talked a little bit about, not only on-prem, but cloud data warehousing, now we got to do something with it, right? And then that gets us into the layers of ETL, whether, you're using Talend or an Informatica, which are the older ones. Maybe we could talk a little bit about what you're doing there, for like the cataloging, the cleaning, that extract transfer layer, to get the data ready for the analytics. What are we using there, and who do you think's got the lead?
So let me preface by saying Talend and Informatica will continue to be, in my opinion, tools that we'll see. They're probably staying flat, right, within certain organizations. In terms of adoptions, I suspect Glue, like the Amazon tool sets are being adopted. Some of the newer ETL, lighter ETL tools are being adopted.
And those are by the cloud. There's not like some new vendor that I need to be aware of that's doing just ETL, or it's an open source. Is it cloud-based?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
I'm not either. That's why I'm asking.
No, not that I'm aware of. I think it's just too easy to go in and leverage the tool sets that are built within the cloud vendors.
Got it. And they're, not surprising. Again, when we switch over to the analytics side, AWS is again leading. Some of these other names I would love to talk about, but they're slightly different when you're talking about Datadog or even Grafana and Elastic. They're more, observing your data, making sure it's doing what it's supposed to be, whether it's infrastructure application. I don't know how often that really comes into this real-time streaming use case for you.
Not really.
It's separate.
It's separate. Yep.
Right.